So good day everyone, this is Prince Clarence Lipugpug from the group 1, and today's video we're gonna talk about the physical self, which is heredity and environment. So first of all, in this presentation, this is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, to use this as an educational material. So the first one we're gonna talk about is all about the dominant and recessive gene. As you can see in this three picture, which it shows the family, our sibling, our brother and sisters, which means are related to our genes. So it is related to this topic. And next is the learning objectives of this topic. The learning objectives of this topic, there are three. So the first one is learners were able to know the differences between the recessive and dominant gene. The second one is learners may able to explain the fundamentals of dominant and recessive gene. The third one is learners may able to gain knowledge about their genetic self. So the first one we're gonna talk about is recessive gene. So what is recessive gene? According to the internet that I have been searched, um, recessive gene is a gene whose effects are masked in the presence of a dominant gene. Every organism that has DNA packed into chromosomes has two alleles or forms of a gene, or each gene, one inherited from their mother and one inherited from their father. So basically, the recessive gene is just the back of the dominant gene, and in this gene came from our both our parents. So from our mother and our father. So a recessive gene is only expressed when an organism has two recessive alleles for that gene. This is also known as being homozygous recessive. If an organism has one dominant and one recessive allele, it shows the dominant trait. So in this second description, it tells that if the dominant is paired with the recessive gene, the dominant will always show and the recessive will always not show. So because the recessive gene um, is just a weaker gene than the dominant gene. So, and the recessive gene will just only show if being paired with another recessive gene. So, this is the characteristic of the recessive gene. So, the recessive gene is weaker than the dominant. So, as what I said earlier, that the recessive gene will just show if being paired with another recessive gene. So, the second one is the recessive gene will only show when both recessive genes are present. And the third one is the recessive gene is represented as lowercase in illustrating. So when illustrating, we will use the Punnett square, and then the Punnett square in illustrating, we will use the recessive gene as the lowercase, and the capital case is the dominant gene. And the last one is recessive gene doesn't show if paired with the dominant gene. So if the recessive gene is paired with the dominant gene, the dominant gene will always show and the recessive gene will not show. So this is the example of illustrating the both dominant gene and recessive gene. For example, a homozygous wolf with blue eyes mate with a heterozygous wolf with blue eyes. So capital B for blue eyes, small b for brown eyes. So homozygous wolf, which is small b, and which means the wolf has brown eyes. And the second one is heterozygous wolf, which is capital B and small b, which has 50% of it has blue eyes, but it has 50% from the dominant gene and 50% from the recessive gene, but the dominant gene will always show. So as you can see in the Punnett square, as it forms, it equals to 2 over 4, which is 1 half, and also means 50%. So note, uppercase letter, which means dominant, lowercase letter, which means recessive, and will be the result will be 50% blue eyes and 50% brown eyes. So another example from the Huntington disease, which is the dominant gene. So paternal from the homozygous from the paternal, and heterozygous from the maternal. Paternal means the father, the maternal means the mother, and it will be result from the 50% of having the disease and 50% from the not having the disease. So this is an example of recessive gene. As you can see, this is the 6, will show the 6, but there are more than 6 example of the recessive gene, but I will just show this, which is no cleft chin. This is the example of recessive gene, which is no cleft chin, no widow's peak, no dimples, blonde hair, attached earlobe, and blue eyes. That's for all for the recessive gene. The next one will be presented by my group, which is the dominant gene. So thank you.
Evening everyone, my name is Arjas Vergi Jerusalem and my topic is the physical self, heredity and environment dominant genes. So our learning objectives is the getting to know the dominant genes, explain the dominant genes and give examples showing dominant genes. So what I'm going to show you step by step what is dominant gene. So a dominant gene is a particular variant of a gene which for a variety of reasons expresses itself more strongly all by itself than any other version of a gene. Why? Because the dominant gene is more powerful than the recessive gene, which is more like an alpha. And then for an example, we can observe a lot of things from the people, like their curly hair or straight hair, brown eyes and blue eyes. Now, the question is, how do you know which person or which parents are the dominant? So it depends. Actually guys, it depends on the person or the parents of the person which is the dominant one. So for example, the father is the curly hair and then the mother is the straight hair. So you can really observe things. So you can see the father is the dominant one because the person is the curly hair. And then another example for let's just say the girl is the girl has blue eyes, and then the father of the girl is brown eyes, blue eyes, and then the mother of the girl is blue eyes. So it really depends on the person. And then another example is the color of the skin. So for example, the mother is brown and then the father is white, and then the child is brown. So the dominant one is the mother. And then it shows here, for example, the affected father and the unaffected mother, so their genes which they received from their parents are the dominant allele and the recessive allele. So I'm going to explain to you step by step that the first illustrates the boy that he receives the dominant allele from the father, and then the other one receives the recessive allele from the mother. And then the result is the affected child is he inherited the dominant by his father. And then the second illustrate that the girl received the recessive allele from the father, and then also the mother. So that's why the mother is the dominant one, because the girl only receives the recessive allele. And then the third peak is the boy inherited the recessive allele from the father, and then the boy receives the recessive allele from the mother, which is the mother also the dominant one. And then the fourth peak, the girl receives the dominant allele from the father, while the genes of the mother receives the recessive allele, which means that the dominant one is the father. So how can you explain which is the dominant and not? You can literally see it from the perspective, guys, if I am the one who is observing, because the dominant is always in our eyes, guys. For example, which is the common things from the people who write who write uh, who write who write it. For example, right-handed. Almost all of the people are right-handed, and then some of them are left-handed. So as you can see, it's by the votes. And then uh, the study research that the father is most likely to be the dominant one rather than the mother, because it shows that the researchers have a lot more votes than the father than the mother. So that's why, and as you can see, guys, the dominant genes is, you can talk about it from the daily life, guys. If you wanted to know your genes on whether you have a diseases or not, and then that's why it calls heredity, because the heredity means that you can trace back from your family history, that from the parents of your parents, if you have diseases or you have cancer or any other terms. For this is the last one example. So for example, the third last generations from your great great grandfather have diabetes, and then to the present now, you inherited one of the diseases from your great great grandfather, and then that's why that's the dominant one. It has like one tiny hole. So that's that's my topic for today, guys. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. This is my report. Physical growth, development, and maturations. Growth refers to the increase in size. It is the process of something growing. It is a physical and quantifiable process. For example, an increase in your height or weight. Development refers to the process of developing or evolutions. For example, the metamorphosis of a caterpillar into a butterfly. Maturations refers to the process of becoming mature over time and reaching the full phase of the development. For example, having a career when you into an adult. Difference between growth, development, and maturations. Growth refers to the physical development of an individual, whereas maturations refers to the intellectual or a person development of an individual, while development refers to the change in the functioning of one organs. Growth is an increase in size, maturations is an advancement in one personal and cognitive domains, whereas development is the improvement of an individual. Development follows as a pattern, whereas maturations and growth do not follow a pattern. Development and maturations is always positive and improvement, whereas growth, especially in weight, is not always considered to be an improvement. Well done, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello everyone, I'm Danilo Bigomadlas Jr. and today I'm going to talk all about environmental factors affecting the physical self. Nowadays, we are overwhelmed with media in form of televisions, smartphones, and computers. May engage in unhealthy behavior in order to achieve the ideal body type. Physical beauty is only skin deep. What matters is feeling good about oneself and embracing a healthy perception of one's physical worth. Heredity and environment affects our physical self or growth and development. For example, body image, it refers to how individuals perceive, think, and feel about their body and physical appearance. The appearance, everything about a person that others can observe such as height, weight, skin color, clothes, and others. Because everything we have to us now tells us what are the personalities we have, though in some cases it can be misinterpreted by other people. But at the end of the day, how we present ourselves shows other people who we are also. We need to feel good about ourselves. An example for this is being low of self-esteem. Being low self-esteem is you get bullied by other people or even with your classmates. It can cause depression to us. Yeah. Maybe we have sometimes we might conscious about ourselves or what we have about ourselves.
The physical self, heredity, and environment. What is the physical self? Describe and how individual views his health condition, body, and physical appearance. Valid and reliable indicators show that students pay attention to lifestyle. So students have a healthy body even though they also sometimes feel pain. What is heredity and environment? An individual's heredity is present since the moment of conception, and some environmental conditions also start influencing him from this very stage. Heredity sets upper limit of what each individual can attain, while environment affects the degree to which the potentialities can be realized. No person can be born without heredity, and genes cannot develop without proper environment. Dominant and received gene. Dominant and received genes, the most common interaction between alleles is dominant receives relationship. An allele of gene said to be dominant when effective over roles of other receives allele. Eye color and blood groups are both examples of dominant received gene relationship. Dominant and received trait exist when a trait has two different forms at the gene level. The trait that first appears of is visually expressed in the organism is called the dominant trait. The trait is present to gene level but is make do not show itself in organism is called the received trait. Physical growth, development, and nutrition growth, the increase in the size of body of specific part of the body. Maturation, the process of becoming mature, including tempo and timing, covers a variety of areas such as sexual maturation, skeletal maturation. Environmental factors affecting physical self. A number of specific environmental issues can impede human health and wellness. These issues include chemical pollution, air pollution, climate change, disease causing microbes, lack of access to health care, poor infrastructures, and poor water quality. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, I am Limutan Ralph James and I will be discussing about physical self and self-concept. Learning objectives, to learn about physical self and to learn about self-concept. What is physical self? Physical self describes how an individual views his health condition, body, and physical appearance. Valid and reliable indicators show that students pay attention to lifestyle. So students have a healthy body even though they also sometimes feel pain. So physical self is the way you look, your posture, your height, your skin, your hair color, and so on. Your physical appearance is also your physical self. It is important for us to know our physical self for us to be able to know our limitations. What is self-concept? Self-concept is the image or the idea we have about ourselves. It can be thought of as our perception of our abilities, behaviors, and characteristics. It helps us to draw a mental picture of who we are physically, socially, and emotionally. We form and develop our self-concept over time. Components of self-concept. First is the self-image. It is how we see ourselves. Our self-image is a combination of the different attributes. First is our personality traits. For example, introvert or kind. Second, our social roles. For example, friend and or student. The second component of self-concept is the self-esteem. Self-esteem is the value that we place on ourselves. Our self-esteem often depends on how we evaluate ourselves. In other words, we make personal comparison and validate how others respond to us. For example, when our managers respond favorably to our achievements, we are encouraged by our performance of our self-esteem growth. The last component of self-concept is the ideal self. This is centered on how we wish we could be. For example, if our goal is to lead a large team someday, we create an ideal self and make a checklist of goals we want to work towards. We may direct all our efforts towards achieving that ideal version of ourselves.